All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of the McKinney Podcast, where we celebrate what makes us unique by nature. How's it going, Fred?
It is rock and roll. It is Monday, and whenever this drops, it's going to be Monday then also. But I tell you what, I actually look forward to Mondays because I've enjoyed the weekend, and let's get after it.
This is Monday. It's not a Friday like it usually is when we record, and that's because our guests are special and not inside of the usual block recording that we do. We have the privilege of, hold on a second, let me get this going here. We have the privilege of sitting with two ladies that help run the McKinney Education Foundation, Carolyn Brooks and Sheila Due. Thank you so much for spending some of your valuable time with us today. What we're talking about the McKinney Education Foundation and a special event that is coming up this October that you will get to participate in as an audience member and vote for the what's the name of the event? I'm going to butcher it.
McKinney Top Model.
McKinney Top Model.
Well, the event is Purses with Purpose.
Right.
Yes.
See, I knew I was going to butcher it.
Purses with Purpose.
Purses with Purpose.
Yes.
And it's McKinney's Top Model that we are getting into. And we'll explain what all of this is, folks. So if you're sitting here wondering, Purses with Purpose, what does that have to do with McKinney Top Model? And what does either of those things have to do with the McKinney Education Foundation?
And why would James and Fred even be talking about this?
We'll let them know a little bit later, won't
That's
we?
right. Little teaser.
A little teaser action. Okay. Kill that music and let's just get into it. Sheila, Carolyn, thanks for joining us. We'll always love to talk about just the human, the background, whatever story you want to share, family interests, how you got to McKinney, what do you do when you're not volunteering for a nonprofit? Who wants to go first? Carolyn, Sheila?
Sure, I'll go first.
Carolyn goes first. Okay.
Let's see how I got to McKinney. I lived in, right after my husband and I, David, got married. We lived in a very small town in the area of North Texas. And I was dying to move to McKinney because McKinney was the big city of 18,000 people in 1987. So I needed to leave my 2,000-person community and get to the big city.
The big city of 18,000.
The big city of 18,000. Yes.
And that was, what, 37, 38 years ago.
There you go.
And McKinney's grown 1,200% since then.
Absolutely.
My word. I can't even imagine McKinney at 18,000. Whereas, it's a dirt road west of Hardin.
Yeah. So 121 was a gravel road.
Yeah.
There was one grocery store. The only thing west of 75 was the old El Dorado neighborhood.
Wow.
The one with Country Club, that street. Yeah. That was the only thing west of 75.
So Hardin was like the western edge of the city, huh?
It didn't exist, Hardin.
Hardin didn't exist
No.
then?
It was a field.
Yeah. Everything was a field.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's perspective for you. Okay. So David was involved in Independent Financial, now South State Bank. He retired when that merger came about. So now you guys are enjoying the very early stages of retirement. Is that right? Or are you still involved professionally beyond your philanthropic efforts?
Well, my life hasn't changed much. David now has time to do everything that he was already doing since he isn't at the bank.
Yeah.
He's very involved in, as chairman of the board of some companies in Dallas and on some other boards. He is able to spend more time with his crazy hobbies, so good for him on that. But yeah, it's the first step of our retirement, and we're looking forward to it.
Has the honey-do list grown since he's retired?
I'm having to retrain him at home. I realized I had slacked off with his domestic training skills, So we're retraining.
David, I'm sorry I asked that question. If you listen to this episode,
he just doghoused him right there.
As a fellow husband, you and I appreciate the situation David's in. Now he has a lot more time around the house if he chooses to, and I imagine there's some things that need to be relearned.
I just want to say that these hands are rough and dry because these hands are the ones that primarily do the dishes at the house.
And that is also his job.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Sheila, how about you? How'd you find your way to McKinney?
long story. My entire career was spent in North Texas, raising money, running foundations, nonprofits. And then I found myself in San Antonio due to my husband's transfer with Toyota. And so we were down there for about 6-7 years. And then he got transferred back up here to the headquarters. And he's worked for Toyota for 35 years. So he's a diehard Toyota guy. And so I came up here. I was working for Alamo Colleges, running the foundation there. And I needed the right thing, not the first thing, the right thing. And so I happened upon the McKinney Education Foundation. I knew people with the McKinney Education Foundation, so I started researching it a little bit. And then a few months later, I landed here as the CEO for the McKinney Education Foundation and really haven't looked back.
What is it about the nonprofit world that made you say years and years ago, you know what? I'm going to be a nonprofit girl. Like, that's going to be what I do. That's my thing. What drew you to that world?
I tripped into it. My first foray into the nonprofit sector was with the Dallas Opera, and never been to an opera. I was hired as the inner circle coordinator, raising money at the individual level. And it soon, about 2 years in, it soon started to interfere with my family life. Nights, weekends, a lot of nights and weekends during opera season. And so I decided I was going to give that up. And I did. I gave it up. And then the gal that was doing corporate development for the opera moved over to the science place. And it's really one of those things, you just fall into it and you keep going. You find that you have been successful and you just get hungry to be more successful. And so more and more and more, I just became in the administrative level of nonprofits, and here I am. What drew me to the McKinney Education Foundation, first and foremost, was education. Secondly, I felt my skills would lend to being able to take them to the next level. And with some hard work and some really hardworking volunteers, our board is an exception to the rule. We have been able to climb the ladder a little bit and bring us to that next level. And I'm looking forward to taking us even further with the support of the board.
All right, Carolyn, let's set the Wayback Machine here, because you can't just trip into something and get to where you are.
This is
Sorry,
Sheila. That's Carolyn.
Sheila. I apologize.
That's okay. That's okay.
I haven't had coffee yet. It's.
Can I get you some coffee?
Yeah, no, it's all good. I can survive this. I'll just throw names backwards here. Sheila, please forgive me. Take us back, because obviously this is a gift. But let's go back to like elementary through high school. Fundraisers at school. Did you do them?
Nope.
No. What was your thought of them?
Didn't think about them.
Didn't think about them. Really?
And when I tell you I tripped into this, I was managing a chiropractic office, and it was only a part-time gig because of my kids. They were young. And one of our patients came in, and she had been in an auto accident, and it was the second time she had come in to be adjusted. And she told me, oh my gosh, I'm wearing so many hats right now. And I just, friendly, I've always been very friendly, very social. I said, well, if there's anything I can do, let me know. And she just kind of looked at me deer in the headlights and said, oh my gosh, you would be great at the inner circle coordinator position. She was just leaving that position. So when I tell you I tripped into it, I'd never been to an opera, and they sat me down with a stack of subscription ticket holder paper. This was a long time ago, almost 30 years ago. And she said, I want you to pick out Saturday night center orchestra and start calling them, get them to lunch at Star Canyon. We had this really deep line of credit at Star Canyon to entertain. And so I started calling But I expanded it to Wednesday night, Sunday afternoon, and Friday night center orchestra. That was not what my instructions were, and I got in trouble for it.
Uh-oh.
My first brand new Inner Circle patron came on about a week after I started. And I just found a groove there. And then the lady that hired me began to question me, how did you do that? You know, like I thought I was in trouble there. And I'm thinking, this is what you told me to do. And so, again, it just started clicking along and loved it. But nights and weekends really got in the way of my family.
So, Carolyn, let's switch gears to the current organization here when we're talking about. I heard Sheila's story. How did you get involved specifically in MEF and choose to be, taking such a prominent volunteer role in leadership on the board? Talk about that for a little bit.
Well, a friend of mine was on the MEF board and just did not have time to continue that and said, can you take my place, which was 13 years ago now. And so I said, sure, I'm pretty passionate about education. And so when I started, obviously I knew very little about MEF, but now I feel like I can talk about it in my sleep.
Yeah.
So, I joined the board and did a 6-year term, was off a year. You have to be off a year. And then I'm at the very end of my second 6-year term.
Okay.
So, yes. So, I like to say that the future of a nation is tied to the educational level of its citizens. Mm-hmm. And I firmly believe that. And so that's why I'm so interested in helping particularly kids who would not otherwise be able to go to college or trade school or whatever suits them. That's why I'm really interested in helping them pursue that goal in their life. Education can change the trajectory of a life, and not only of one life, of a family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've seen that happen in my own family. And starting with my generation, we're all different. Now our kids and grandkids are all going to be well educated, but it started with that first generation going to college. So I'm super passionate about helping other families, especially first generation, college students, get there.
Mm-hmm. A lot of our audience has no idea what the McKinney Education Foundation is. And I say that with confidence because I didn't know what it was. I'd heard the name, didn't really have any familiarity. All right, cool. It's a nonprofit in McKinney. We have literally hundreds of nonprofits in McKinney. We have more nonprofits per capita than any other city of our size in the country. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
McKinney's nonprofit sector, for the size of city that we are, is more voluminous than any other city in the country.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It can be a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It can be also very complicated and challenging from development, from fundraising, and whatnot, because people get nonprofit saturated and nonprofit fatigue because somebody's always asking for sponsors for a golf tournament. Always. That's another conversation for another day. All that to say, give us your elevator on MEF. What is it? Why does it exist? And what are the key things that MEF does as an organization?
MEF started in 1991. There were previously the junior class used to raise money for the senior class for college. Well, they quickly realized that was not sustainable. Different classes raised different amounts of money. Mm-hmm. So Lynn Sperry and Pam Sexton had come up with this idea to start a nonprofit to raise money for kids to attend college. And it took off from there. A lot of growth. But I'll just tell you, I think of McKinney Education Foundation in 3 buckets. One, which is how most people think of us, is we give scholarships. We have a pretty large endowment for the city our size. We have about a $14 million endowment. And so we use that to give scholarships. We have about 700 or 800 kids apply every year, and we're able to award 300 and something kids scholarships each year, and really wish we could do more and are trying to grow our endowment to be able to do that. So we use our endowment for that. And then we also give pass-through scholarships, meaning someone can just donate the money that does not have an endowment. We pass it right through to a student for a scholarship. So that's bucket one. Bucket two is that we provide teacher and staff grants for MISD. And I meant to say earlier, the students that we give scholarships to are MISD students. Mm-hmm. And then we give grants to MISD teachers and staff so they can apply for grants. These grants are for things that the district does not have the resources for. So it might be supplies for the classroom, a field trip. It might be continuing education for teachers.
Yeah.
So we give grants to over $100,000 a year.
Well, and in light of what just happened in Austin,
yes.
With the big cuts in funding, the mandate for MEF just got even more important because those gaps are going to be cropping up all over the place, I would imagine.
You said that perfectly. Absolutely. This next fall is going to be really important on the grant front for us to help as much as we can. So I will say Sheila instituted a new part of our grant program last year, which is called family-funded grants. Why hadn't we thought of this before? The kids in the classroom that the teacher requested the grant, their parents are now asked if they would like to contribute to the grant for that teacher's classroom. And we had huge success with that for the first time last year.
Man.
Bucket three is that, and maybe the most impactful thing that we do, which nobody knows about. Each of the three McKinney high schools has a college advisor. This college advisor is completely supported by MEF. MISD does not pay the salary of these three women. What they do is they speak to kids when they come in as freshmen and follow them through and find out what their post-high school goals are. They help them apply for college, apply for trade school, apply for whatever it is that their goal is.
Wow.
And so
this is one person
per campus. And really, we need two. We would love to have two. But anyway, they help them. They hold, seminars on how to apply. They help a lot of kids on an individual basis, especially first-generation college students whose parents don't know this process. Mm-hmm. And then I'll say the most important thing they do is to find funding. Mm-hmm. Of course, MEF gives some scholarships, but we don't give nearly enough scholarships to help the number of students that need them. So these ladies find money from private organizations, public organizations, businesses, individuals that have scholarships with certain criteria. So they see, does this student fit the criteria? And they hook the student up with scholarships. Every year, our three college advisors are instrumental in finding over $25 million of accepted scholarships for our McKinney seniors.
That's incredible.
So that's very impactful in our community and in lives.
So your own endowment is $14 million, and the three advisors that you guys directly support have another $25 million of outside money that they're able to secure from McKinney ISD students.
That's right.
Incredible.
So you talked about trade schools. I mean, because I think that's big. Every one of my clients that's electrical or AC or plumbing, they always ask me, who do you know who's interested in this? And, my understanding, it's very lucrative. And the track for that, it's a pretty short time investment for someone who pursues that path, and you support those things. Now, when it comes to generating this additional scholarship and grant money, stuff like that, if I'm not just going to blanket say that plumbers and electricians and roofers and all that just have, amazing pockets, but have you actually helped some of these companies to develop their own scholarship plan or programs?
I'm going to let Sheila speak to that. Workforce development is a huge priority for MEDC, for the city of McKinney.
Yep.
And we have plans to be involved in that, but Sheila is the knowledgeable one.
So we don't necessarily help external organizations or businesses develop a scholarship program. However, we are very good at helping them develop a scholarship under the McKinney Education Foundation. Many people say, I want to have this. My kid needs to go to this trade school, their scholarship recipient. Or my passion is Baylor, so my student needs to have a 3.0, needs to be included in YMSL, but their plans are going to Baylor. So we have a criteria where we can match those students. We brought on a robust software system last year to where students apply for it, and the algorithm will match the students to the donor who has that. And so that's primarily where we can go with that. Now, the workforce development issue, we see it as a big need. We are working right now with the board to develop an opportunity for an individual to come on in a grant-funded position to help students who are only interested in workforce, whether it be training, HVAC, plumbing, roofing, automation, advanced manufacturing, those kinds of things.
Auto and diesel mechanics.
That's
and
right.
whatnot.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
So we're working on developing that opportunity so that we can bring someone on that can take that burden off of the current college advisors who really excel in that post-high school navigation to higher education. So this would be someone that would rotate high schools, even go down into the middle school to begin talking to them about the dual credit programs that are offered through MISD. That will be a game changer for the city. The community wins when we have an educated workforce, regardless if it's what we call new collar work. It's not blue collar, it's not white collar, but it's somewhere in between. And we think we can help people get there.
You know, I find it interesting, ironic almost, that someone who has a master's degree and obviously a bachelor's degree and has 4 professional certifications behind my name, I'm sitting here going, you know, there's a lot of people that you don't need college to be wildly successful.
Right.
And it's been such a cool journey for us. You know, Allison and I own a commercial insurance firm, and a lot of our clients are very blue collar. They've never even seen a college classroom, much less been in one, much less have a college degree. And they are tremendously successful, whether it's a skilled trade or it's they just saw a need in, you know, some blue collar profession, whether it's manufacturing or distribution or who knows what, the sort of thing you just don't need a college degree for to be successful in that field. And I think most people would be very surprised to learn how much a journeyman plumber or a master electrician, whatever, these folks make really good money.
They sure can.
Yeah. Now, obviously, when you're an apprentice, you're not making really good money for the first year or two, but it's really fast if you're applying yourself to move through an apprentice rank and get yourself into a journeyman rank with one of these trades. And next thing you know, you're 22 years old making 80 grand a year. You know, you're 26 years old making 120 grand a year. And you don't work nights and weekends. You work in the shop when the shop's open. When the shop's closed, you're not working. You don't carry your work home with you like attorneys and accountants and bankers and lawyers and all these people do. You know, it's a completely untapped thing for a lot of folks. They don't even realize how successful they can be doing something that isn't going to college.
May I add something to that?
Sure.
With the demographics now and the socioeconomic situation here in McKinney, we've got nearly 40% of MISD students who are on free and reduced lunch. Nearly 40%.
Yeah.
These kids, some of them, not all of them, don't have a desire and are not supported to go on to that next level of education, be it higher ed.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, they're also expected to work and help the family. These are the students that we really can help. move that needle for their future to say, I can be a plumber and I can make $80,000 a year. I can support my mother and those kinds of things. And I can really make a difference, but I cannot take the time to move on to the next level in higher education.
Yeah. I think that's interesting that, and of course, James and I want to say that there's nothing wrong with going to college.
There's nothing wrong with going to college.
I went to college.
That's right.
Twice.
I went to college also. My master's degree, ask me how much of that I use. And I survey a lot of my clients, because, I'm always curious and I want to know more about them, not just come and grab a headshot. But a lot of my clients, brilliantly successful, advanced post-secondary degrees, not using it anywhere near that. But, do you offer I don't want to call it a seminar because, I don't know of any high schooler who says, I want to go to a seminar. But do you offer some sort of informational meeting?
Career guidance.
Yes, to help remove this stigma that, you go to college, you're successful. You don't go to college, you're a loser. Because I do sense a lot of that. Even the students that I talk to when I say, you're graduating this year, what are you going to do? And a lot of times they start off, well, I'm just going to go to Collin. And I'm like, why is it just go to Collin? I was like, Collin is an excellent academic institution. And, of course, I always try to throw that out there. And you know what? That plumber and that AC guy that I had to call to come out on the weekend, they make double good money.
Bank.
That's right. And so I try to tell people all the time, is like, you know what? You have to change your mind about what it is that you think success looks like. Because it's not, and because I know a lot of people who work that office job who all of a sudden lost their mind because that's not what they were made for. Yeah. And being in that office, all their accolades on the wall, they just, I can't do this, and they left that. So
I think that you guys are just pointing out the reason that we need a workforce development person at McKinney Education Foundation to make the high school students value a career in the trades and to realize it's not second to college.
That's right.
Everybody is different.
That's right.
And we need each person's skill set, whether it's college or not college.
Totally agree.
The other thing is you could not be more correct about Collin College and what a treasure that is for our community. My youngest son started out at Collin College.
Yeah.
He's plenty bright. He was never interested in school at all. Made B's and C's. He went to Collin College. He happened to connect to a male history teacher there that got him thinking, I'll say. To me, college is about learning how to think.
Sure.
Yep.
And this teacher got him to think about really deep philosophical questions. And he would come home and discuss those and be excited to discuss those with me. And so that really jump-started him, his college career. He went on to study philosophy at CU, and then he went at University of Colorado, Boulder, and then he went on to UT Law School. But it was that one teacher at Collin College that made such an impact in his life. So I totally support students starting off there.
Excellent.
The other thing about Collin College, they are $62 per credit hour.
Testify.
Bam.
Preach.
Yeah. Then they are also now offering the bachelor's programs, multiple bachelor's programs. There's not a better investment. And if you dream of the Ivy League, start small. Start at Collin. You're going to get your basics out of the way and move on up the road.
That's right.
But there's not a better value in education than what Collin College brings.
Well, I went
this
to
isn't a plug for Collin College, but it is what it is.
Well, it happens to be here in town, so I mean,
this is the McKinney Podcast, and last time I checked, Collin College was headquartered in McKinney. So
That's right.
If we're promoting Collin College, I am totally fine with that.
And we give a lot of scholarships at MEF to students going to Collin College.
There you go,
folks. The perception, if any of you out there still hold on to this antiquated philosophy that, oh, we're only going to Collin. I was like,
Yeah,
I mean,
let's change
education
that.
is education. Bettering yourself is bettering yourself. I mean, you name one degree program at Collin College that America doesn't need more of. I don't know. With apologies to the liberal arts students out there, maybe we don't need more liberal arts programs, because I don't know what liberal arts
That was
people
my
do.
bachelor's. I'm a liberal artist.
I honestly, I don't know what you do for a career with a liberal arts degree other than do something in education and continue to be an educator.
That's right.
But I mean,
And that's okay too.
That's right.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
Especially right now it's so hard to find good quality educators.
you're right.
So
Especially
yeah.
when they get treated like crap by darn near everybody, parents included. So, I mean, being a professional educator in today's society, gosh, it's so difficult.
It's the hardest job. That's why I really feel our classroom grants to teachers really make a difference in their ability to teach. It's not easy to teach in an under-budgeted scenario.
Absolutely.
We do feel this year we're going to be hit hard. I recently developed a proposal for Baylor Scott and White to fund the CNA program through MISD. MISD does not partner with Collin on the CNA program. So Baylor underwrote that program, and that's going to be a benefit to the students who take it.
And that's a certified nurse assistant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talking about classrooms and being underfunded. You mentioned that you started with parents in particular classrooms supporting the fund for their class.
This was the family funded.
The family
grants.
funded, that's it.
That's right. I developed that program because we have had in the classroom grants portion of what we do, it was always primarily funded through the distribution from specific endowments.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you a finite amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people out there, and I do the same now with scholarships. There are people out there that can give $10.
Mm-hmm.
They can't give $200 or
Yes.
$2,500, but they want to help.
Mm-hmm.
And so opening it up to everyone to participate, that's a big deal.
How does MEF collaborate with the PTOs at these various campuses? Because as you're talking specifically about, these classroom-based grants, I'm thinking, because my wife, Allison, is pretty involved at McClure Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
She's been a room mom all 3 years that our son has been there. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, this sounds pretty similar to the sort of stuff that PTO is doing at the campus level. How do y'all collaborate with them?
So many of our PTOs have scholarships that they provide. McClure Elementary recently, this past scholarship celebration, was it last week? No, week before last, raised money to support a scholarship in memory of Braxton Pinheiro. Braxton was a student who died, and they wanted to honor him in this way. So they provided 2 $500 scholarships, and that came from the president of the McClure PTO. So same way, many of the PTOs offer scholarships to students. We have not jumped into the realm of working with them as it relates to a classroom grant. This year is going to be a game changer. MISD has had to cut all kinds of money from their budget.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe wholeheartedly that we're going to see a much more robust application from our teachers asking for help in the classroom, because basic needs are having to be considered whether or not we can fund them or not. I imagine if you're cutting $15 million off of a $23 million budget, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, good point, guys. I think we need to really communicate with the families at each school, because as people, everybody's aware that budgets are being cut for public education. And so I feel like our community will step up that the parents will step up, even if the grant hasn't been requested in their particular child's classroom. I feel like if we communicate that through the PTOs, that we will raise a lot more money because people realize that the need is so much greater.
Communication is the biggest barrier to success in these programs. You hate to ask the teachers to do one more thing. Send us out in your newsletter.
That's right. Puts us in the folder that goes home.
That's right. Put us in the folder that goes home. Connect us with your parent. What's the person who's the parent for that classroom? Connect us with that person. They can help send out the information. We can't do it in a vacuum. And we have to have those boots on the ground to help get that information out.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I just have to say that I remember back in elementary school when we were going to be doing this one craft. We were going to make a fruit bowl out of popsicle sticks. And I took it upon myself. I was like, you know what? I will help. As a third grader, I will help make sure that we have the popsicle sticks. And, it's my personal challenge. If a classroom needs popsicle sticks, I'm in for it. But on a serious note, though, with all of these cuts, have you been approached yet with payroll level requests for support? Like, we need a classroom. We need a second person in the classroom, especially in some of the, the special needs classes, because, that's the teacher-student ratio is pretty close, not like, 1 to 20 or 25, whatever they do in classrooms now. So, and do you see that becoming part of your standard scope of support?
I do not, honestly. We have not been approached with that
That's
request.
Pandora's box, right?
That's Pandora's box. That is, I wish we could. Certainly there's going to be the need for that. Like I said, right now, one of our more attainable goals is to hire a workforce development person at MEF who can connect those students who are interested in that area. So being able to help MISD with payroll and additional staff, every nonprofit, like you said, because there are so many, we're fighting for available funds. And so, I don't see that in the near future. Sheila?
I agree 100%. We want to help MISD in every way that we can. Our charter really becomes classroom grants, scholarships, and the incredible return on investment that comes with our high school college advisors. Each of them have a master's degree, and they're not making much money, but they love what they do, and they're really good at it. We feel the program needs will be extreme this coming year, and we're going to concentrate on that. We can't take on the salaries. We can't take that on. McKinney Education Foundation, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, is ranked number 2 in the state as it relates to education foundations for public schools, only second to Highland Park. And we think that has everything to do with the assets that we manage, the $14 million in assets.
So I'm going to go ahead and pivot us towards the event in October. But before I do, I will make a shameless plug. Folks, there's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that have means of various kinds. A lot of you that listen to this podcast are philanthropically active year in and year out, not just in December when it's time to make that tax deductible contribution because your CPA said, quick, donate 10 grand, do it now. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, during the whole year, you're thinking in terms of how can I use the resources that I've been entrusted with, regardless of what your religious background is. Like, there's all kinds of blessings that come to each of us, providential and hard work and all of that stuff. Consider giving your time and treasure and energy to McKinney Education Foundation, because there's nothing wrong with these other groups that we've had in here, Samaritan Inn and Community Lifeline Center and Volunteer McKinney and One Heart McKinney, these other nonprofits that have been represented with the people that have sat in these same chairs. The Education Foundation is doing a different kind of work that has scope that is exceptionally broad in nature. And I say that speaking as the parent of 2 elementary age kids. I felt differently before I understood exactly what these classrooms look like, exactly what these campus support people go through. Because, I mean, we know these folks, thanks to McClure Elementary and everybody who's there. It's like, oh, the perspective has radically changed now. Like, there's people and faces and names attached to these things. It's not just this, oh, our city needs ... It's the people at these campuses, these students, these families, these educators need support. So I don't know if either one of you are planning to make that pitch, but I certainly will. Get your checkbook out. We'll make sure that all the stuff is available in the show notes of the podcast programming. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be in the description of the video below. And if you're able to, please support. And let's pivot now and talk about these events.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Okay. So Purses with a Purpose.
McKinney's top model.
McKinney's top model. Who wants to explain that? And then whichever one of you does, the other person can tell us how this event came to be and how its predecessor was put on the shelf for a little bit.
That's right.
Well, let me start with the predecessor event.
Okay.
And McKinney Education Foundation for a number of years put on a lunchtime spelling bee. And it was, you could enter it as a business or as individuals or a church or any another nonprofit, any chamber, any organization that you were in, and you had to provide 3 people that would sit up on the stage and spell words. And so we had a MC, and it would go down the line, and if it was a process of elimination. If you missed the word, then you're out. So then the last man standing, the group that spelled the most words, was the winner. And it was the most fun because the different groups would have tables at the event, and they would cheer for their particular spellers up on the stage. I believe the last year that we had it, it was huge. It was at the Sheridan. And our current mayor, Mayor Fuller, entered with 2 other people, and he actually won.
No kidding.
And he's very proud of that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Should be.
How come he didn't share that during our interview?
That did not come up when we
Spelling
talked
bee
to him.
champ.
I'm disappointed in him.
Spelling bee
George.
champ.
He can
The cat's out of the bag, George.
George can spell.
All
I'm
right.
telling you. But anyway, that was the predecessor
George can't
event.
spell. Hashtag
Yeah.
George can't spell.
George can
No,
spell.
man. That's
But
funny.
anyway, and then we used to have an event, trivia night event. Really a lot of fun, raised very little money. We just decided the effort, the squeeze wasn't worth the juice. So we dropped that one. And how this event came about, Purses with Purpose, wow, several years ago, almost a decade now, the previous executive director of MEF and myself were sitting in her office one day, and she came up with the idea, and I said, you want to give purses away that are expensive, and this is an event to make money? But anyway, she explained the concept to me that we sell chance tickets, and the women that come put their chance tickets in the box in front of the purse that they would like to win. And so at the event, those boxes are brought on stage, and our MC pulls the winner's name out, and that person wins that particular purse. That's the concept. It started very small. I think we made $10,000 our first one. And this last year, thanks to Sheila's ingenuity and hard work, we made $500,000. We grossed $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
We netted about $400,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And so
We love that.
we love that.
Love
And
that.
since it is our only fundraiser, it's very important. I think the women of McKinney are, I'll have to say, insanely crazy about this event. There's just something fun about winning a designer bag that you wouldn't go out and buy for yourself.
Yeah.
So now we hold it at the Sheraton every year. And unfortunately, that's the largest venue that McKinney has right now.
Right now.
For now.
For now. And we're sold out every year.
Yeah.
And we can't wait for the new venues to come so that we can, add all the people that want to come.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with Aaron Werner just a few weeks ago, and I saw him again at the Byron Nelson that, as we record this, it's literally finished yesterday. And the discussion was for us to be at capacity once this amphitheater opens next year. We need to have 12 additional hospitality venues in McKinney. Because like we're already under capacity by a lot, by almost 2,500 beds. And once the amphitheater opens, that gap becomes like 6,000 or 7,000 beds. And it's like, oh man, like we need like 10 or 12 new hotels in McKinney to support the demand. And that's with the current level of demand. So yeah, the opportunity on the venue and hospitality side of things could not be more urgent. So developers, hello, as you listen to this, build hotels here, please.
I hear that the Sunset is going to have a room as well as that's larger, and as well as the Cannon Beach Club is going to have a room. So we're excited to use one of those for our event.
Oh yeah,
there we go.
Yeah.
And the Marriott property that's being built right next to TPC Craig Ranch is supposedly going to be having a good size conference and event space as well. So hopefully we'll be able to fit more than about 300 people is about capacity at the Sheraton.
At the Sheraton, it's 450.
450.
Seated.
Okay.
Seated at a dinner.
Seated.
Tight.
Wall to wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it drove me absolutely crazy when we went to the Hugs Gala. This is back February a year ago, and we all drove down to Allen at the property off of 75 in Bethany and Allen. I'm just like, there are hundreds of us driving from McKinney to Allen next door, and as unapologetically pro McKinney guy, with apologies to Allen, I don't care about you, Allen. I'm a McKinney guy. Oh, it drove me so crazy. It was like, why are we all driving to Allen? Where is this venue in McKinney? Come on. We've got to do better, developers. Like, where is the hotel and event space that can accommodate this event in McKinney? Let's make it happen.
I agree.
Ugh.
We've looked at it and looked at it and looked at it. And it comes back down to people want to stay in McKinney.
Yeah.
They don't want to drive to Allen. They don't want to drive to Frisco. So here we are. And so we're sticking with the Sheraton until we have another opportunity in McKinney.
It would be a little weird for the McKinney Education Foundation to have its event in Allen or Prosper or Frisco or something. There's something would just seem off about that. I'm not going to lie.
Full disclosure, we had our 30-year gala in 2022, November. We did have to move to Frisco because exactly there was no venue. It was 750
I was about to say, when you have...
We could not.
We
could not. And it was painful to have it out of McKinney. But I understand the dilemma that all these other nonprofits have because we have the same one.
Okay, so talk about the model thing. Because how did that come to be? And how does it play into Purses with Purpose?
I'd like to jump in here. We are at capacity at the Sheraton with 450 people. Yeah. We needed to figure out a way to raise more money during our only fundraising event. Now, enter Carolyn Brooks. Carolyn has this brainchild of, I want to do top model. Let's do top model. And she had it all really planned out, orchestrated to the logistics of the event. And then she was kind of taking it off of an event that she had attended in Colorado, but we made it McKinney specific. And then last year, and I want Carolyn to tell you a little bit more about how that came to be, but last year, it just blew the doors off of the event. Everyone loved it. Carolyn?
Thank you, Sheila. You're too kind to me. I would say it was successful because of the models. Enter James and Fred. This year,
there it is.
There it is.
This year's two of this year's male top models. So,
and there's only 12. Six men and 6 women.
That's exactly right. So,
wait, 2 of us are 2 of us are 6. So this is 1/3 of the men right here.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And we're super grateful to have you and excited about having you as top models.
No pressure.
And the top model event is all about fun. The word model intimidates people. You think,
Sure.
oh, I'm not beautiful enough or young enough. Well, there's nothing that's not.
Neither am I. Neither is Fred.
That's right. I'm older.
None of it has to do with that. It's about wanting to have some fun, connecting your people that you know, your networks in McKinney with MEF.
Mhm.
And the way it works is our models send emails or text out to their friends and family who might want to help MEF by voting for their friend who is a top model. One vote is $1.
Yeah.
Of course, most people will vote with $5 or $10. We had David Craig last year who voted with $1,000. Thank you, David Craig. And
That seems like something David would do.
That's right.
then we had one good friend who voted with $5,000 himself and was matched with his company by $5,000. Thank you, Steve Heisner. Anyway, it ended up, and then some people voted with $5 and $10, which was kind of the original idea, was to do mass fundraising with small amounts.
Crowdsourcing it. Yep.
That's right.
And so not only does that raise money, it also, a lot of these people had not heard about MEF, but they get an email from Fred saying, hey, I'm competing in McKinney's top model, and I really want to win, and I want to beat my friend James here. It gets to be a competition between the models and just a lot of fun. And so people that can afford $100 will send in 5 or 10, which is absolutely perfect. And we make it really easy. You just click on a link. There's a QR code. It's no big deal. You can also vote the night of the event if you're there. But this all culminates in walking the runway the night of the event. And the runway goes right down the center of the room. And my advice to the models is wear anything you want. Wear something really chic out of your closet. Go buy a new outfit. Wear your pajamas and do somersaults if you want. Come up with a clever, creative costume if you want, but just make it your own. I would just say have fun with it, because that's what the audience loves. Our models last year, being the first class of top models, were incredibly brave, I'll have to say. They came up with the most magnificent ideas. I'll have to say, Amanda Baker Talley made a purse, a black purse that looked like a YSL purse, and it was to wear. She wore the purse and sang down the runway.
And it was exquisite.
I
watched the video. It was like,
So
how
amazing.
on earth did you make something like person-sized?
Yes.
She
Looks
is
so
so
good.
creative.
Yes.
Very talented.
Yes.
Except she changed the badge on it.
To
Yes,
MEF.
So it was
to
MEF.
MEF instead of YSL.
YSL, that's right.
And
All
then,
the attention to detail, I was like, okay, that's a
Because she
very
did
high
all
bar.
like the quilting with
Yes.
the diamond pattern and
Yes.
all. I'm just like, how does someone do this? I have never seen such a thing. It was phenomenal.
Her
It was.
pre-event outfit was pretty phenomenal, and she made that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
She gathered T-shirts and jerseys from all of the high schools and MEF, and she crafted a dress from all of those.
Wow.
Incredibly talented.
I just,
But we-
I don't have those skills. That's
Yeah, I don't have
phenomenal.
those
and that
skills
is
either.
okay, because we had a lot of models who walked down the runway. Mike Kowski, MEDC, was a model, and he just lit it up with his own, suit and outfit, and just had style.
He
and
gave a
walked
little
in-
shimmy, didn't he?
He gave a little shimmy, I'm just going to
Yeah.
say. Anyway, yes, and we
Kowski,
had...
we know you've got that shimmy.
That's
Yeah.
right. The Kowski shimmy. It'll be the next dance craze.
Cupid
And-
Shuffle, watch out. The Kowski shimmy's coming for you.
And then we had Terry Ratnan and we had Jeray Feltus, and they wore these big full skirts and just twirled down the runway, and that was fabulous. And then we had two guys who we had to save for last because we knew they were going to just light it up. And that was Mark Heinrich and Hunter Heinrich, father-son.
Hi.
Plus bonus.
Don't put anyone after us.
That's
Okay.
right.
But yeah, I know this year's models are going to try to top last year's models.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway,
We've got something planned.
That's right. That's
they kind of did a hip hop dance, and off came their jackets and off came their shirts. And,
Yeah.
they, in the end, they ended up having, one of them had and they danced, which was great fun. And one of them had an M on his shirt, and Hunter had an E, and then here comes Hunter's 3-year-old son, Hudson, that had an F on his shirt to complete it.
Love it.
And
the crowd went wild.
yeah. So
James, it's up to you and Allison. We need an infant. It's up to you and Allison.
I regret to inform you that is not possible.
I will say one of the outcomes from the top model event
Mm-hmm.
was more than 1,000 new donors
Amen.
to MEF.
Mhm.
yes. Yes.
And,
And our-
1,000 new people in your distribution list who
That's
are
right.
getting your
Correct.
newsletters,
Mhm.
understanding the important updates, the success stories, the scholarship recipients, the donor, like the teacher recipients. They're getting plugged into the mission.
That's right.
Right.
The donations are important. Don't get me wrong. They're very important. But even more important is 1,000 new humans that are plugged into the mission.
That's right.
And last year, we didn't understand the potential for this, and we set the models' goals at $2,000 each. Well, we ended up raising over $50,000. The models did altogether,
Bang.
which is about $4,200 each. And so this year, you guys got a little bit higher goals.
No
so-
pressure.
No pressure.
That's not going to be a
That's
problem.
Yeah.
What,
So-
what if I can get a workforce development person in? Will that be?
Ooh.
Get the funding
Get
for
the
it.
funding. We would love it.
And have them vote for
There we
you.
go.
Yes.
Fred now got 40,000 votes from someone.
That's
I don't know how that's possible. Fred might carry that full $50,000
I don't know.
by himself.
I'm a small fish. During that, so for the audience benefit, we had a informational meeting / dinner, and I looked around the room. I'm like, there's some stiff competition in that room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Including Maylee Thomas Fuller,
That's right.
Yes.
That's
which
right.
I think she's going to pull a lot of votes.
Yeah, but you know what? Though, we're kind of underdogish here, right? You know, so
We're very
that's
underdogs,
right.
my
So,
friend.
you know what? We can do this.
Compared to Maylee, yeah,
That's right.
we're the definition of underdog.
That's right.
We got to pull out the stops
That's right.
with
Yeah.
crazy dance moves
Yeah.
and 7 levels of costumes.
There's already been a brainstorming session.
I'm just trying to
so-
figure out how many tearaway suits I can fit on my body. So
Good question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here you go.
And how much
There you
time
go.
do we have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
We
2
had
minutes.
several models tell us that they wanted to raise their goals on the crowdfunding page.
Mhm.
They wanted to raise it because they were reaching out to people who could write a bigger check, but they're saying, but you've already met your goal.
Yeah.
So they have encouraged us, don't set the goals for the models, set them, but don't print them. Don't put it out there
Mhm.
so that it doesn't inhibit them from raising more money,
Mhm.
more votes.
I will tell
you
you,
can vote early and vote often.
my personal goal is 10 grand. So
Woo!
yeah, I don't know what the individual winner was last time, but my goal is 10 grand.
Just
So-
shy of 8,000.
Okay.
And it
Really?
was a wild frenzy. We take votes up until about the last 5 minutes before we announce the winner.
Okay.
So we were seeing there were 2 people running back and forth. It was last minute. People $500, $1,000, $75. And so
Love
we
it.
had to cut it off and tell them we have to cut it off
Yeah.
because I've got live information in front of me that tells me who the winner is.
Yeah.
And the winner gets a trophy.
Yeah.
and
Mirror ball trophy.
It's
Oh, I saw
presented
it.
that night. It's
Bragging
fabulous
rights.
and
That's right.
bragging rights for
Right.
a year
yeah.
or the rest of your life.
And they get a parade, a new car, and a year's supply of rice-a-roni at the San
Hot Wheels
Francisco
car.
treat, right?
It's a Hot Wheels car.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
No,
is awesome.
And the key to the city for a day.
That's right.
There
Yeah.
you go.
But so much fun.
Yeah. Can't
So
wait.
much
Yes.
fun. That I don't think we anticipated the reaction from everyone. It raised the bar for the event.
Yeah.
It raised money. Typically, this event has been geared toward mostly women, but there were more men in the room last year because the models were buying tables so that they could fill the crowd with their friends.
Yep.
And so we saw more men in the room last year, and we anticipate that even more this year.
Yep. Well,
I think
There will be a RiskWell table. I can promise you that.
Right.
We just got to figure out how to best be involved.
That's right.
So, and Fred and Elizabeth, don't worry, I'll save 2 seats for you at the
There you
table.
go.
You're
That's
good.
right. That's right.
Yeah. So, anything else y'all want to talk about? We're right at an hour. We try to keep it under an hour if we can. So, any last words before we wrap this thing up and send people on their way?
Well, one last thing, you spoke of all the nonprofits in McKinney, but just another plug for MEF. MEF is such a future forward-looking endeavor.
Yeah.
I mean, we support the youth. We support our next generation of leaders and thinkers for our country and our state and our city. And I'm obviously involved in some other nonprofits in McKinney. Those are fixing problems that we have, and they're important. They're very important. But, the old adage goes, teach a man to fish, don't give him a fish. I feel like that's what we're doing at MEF.
Yep.
We're teaching people we're allowing them to be self-supporting individuals who can become involved civically and in every other way in their community.
Okay.
So,
love it.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I don't think we're going to have any problems selling out the event this year.
No.
If you want to be in that room, are tickets available for purchase yet?
Not individual seats.
Okay.
Tables. Last year, we sold out via tables. We're not able to open up individual seats.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we will.
So you can participate by voting for your favorite top
yes,
model.
or buying a table.
Or by buying a table.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll put that information in the show notes as well. If you want to be involved at the table level, you can join us in that endeavor, and we'll see you at the event. October 20-something? 22nd. I thought it was November last time, and I was kindly corrected. It was like, actually, James, it's in October. It's like, okay, well, let's get that on the calendar then.
Yeah, better get that on your calendar.
Oh, it's already there now. I promise you it's there now.
We appreciate this so much, giving us the opportunity to really share more about MEF. It is a game changer for the community and for the students that we serve and the teachers that are awarded those innovative classroom grants. It's pretty amazing.
That's right, because they are investing in the future.
The future.
We can't let you guys out
The future
without
of the
asking.
students, but
Yes,
the future of
our.
McKinney.
That's right.
I jumped the gun on that. I apologize. I should let you finish there. We ask everybody the same question, and it's a simple who would win question. And I think both of you might have an interesting take on this. Who would win in a fight between a great white shark and a polar bear that's approximately 12 feet tall? It's a big old polar bear. But the fight occurs in a swimming pool of infinite size. There's no edges to the pool, and it is 6 feet deep. Who wins, shark or polar bear?
Shark.
Okay.
I'm going to have to say the great white shark.
Okay. How did you get to that answer? What's the rationale there?
Well, the great white shark can move in water. The polar bear can move, but can't maneuver as well.
Okay. Sheila?
The great white shark can take the legs out from under the big bear.
Okay.
All right.
Valid arguments. There you go. 2 points for Team Shark, Fred.
That's right. Starting off strong.
There you go. All right. Sheila, Carolyn, thank you so much for being here. This has been a fantastic episode. And folks, get involved however you see fit. Voting, get a table, support the Purses with Purpose event October 22nd, and support the McKinney Education Foundation any way that you are able to, with your time, with your talent, and with your treasure as well. This has been another episode of the McKinney Podcast, where we celebrate what makes us unique by nature. Catch you next time, folks. Thanks.